Well, welcome to another episode of OTM the podcast. Today we have another special guest with us, Coach Troy. Coach Troy is a good friend of mine, and I've known him for actually many years. We've just not been in contact as much as I wanted to, Coach, by the way.
Yeah, be
We
back.
were supposed to go break bread and run around the streets, I mean the cities together and
Yeah,
see what was there.
yeah, we were, we were, we still
So
can.
absolutely, and we will. I think there's opportunity for us to catch up. I want to introduce you to our audience because I think you're one of those people that is just not as well known as I thought you would be, and I mean that because I think you've done some amazing things. Your resume on your website says you have trained over 500 plus professional athletes, including 25 NFL Super Bowl champions, UFC world champions, boxing Hall of Famers, NCAA All Americans, and Olympians. And with that intro, coach, I would say, why isn't anybody just hearing of you in the mainstream? I would think you'd be on Time Magazine or so forth. Why do you think you're not as famous? Because I know you're a very humble person, by the way.
Well, I guess my reasoning for doing it was always built around the athlete and not the intention around who the athlete is. So I never sought out the camera, never took advantage of social media and when it came about. And being one of the grandfathers of the industry, where going back 30 plus years of when performance coaching was more of you either were a personal trainer or a strength coach. When it first began back in the day, there wasn't much hype around it, and it began to take. I was not creating anything. I just have no interest to do it, and I think that's what it's always been about for me. It's always been more about seeing the athlete smile and be successful in real time than it was about me being having some notoriety or having some admiration or having some type of acknowledgement of what the job entailed, because I didn't really wasn't interested in that. Just the outcome, their performance, and the journey that they took, that they chose me to be a part of, which sometimes started from as young as 5 years old and went up to 10 years into an NFL or professional career, after retirement, then retirement. So it was just different motivation.
Well, I can tell you, as you mentioned, 5 years old, I should take a moment to acknowledge my gratitude to you. I don't know if you remember my son, Alexander, but you helped me get him into college.
Very much so.
And well, I don't know if you realized that at the time, but as I reflect back after his graduation from college, he came to you and he was actually injured, as he told me.
I remember.
And I think the part about getting him into college was, and just for context for folks watching, Alex was a high school athlete. He was actually ranked in Maryland in the 400 and 800 meters, and he needed to take time off of his pace or his run in order to qualify to be considered for a athlete spot, an athlete scholarship. So we brought Alex, and I said we my brother, his godparent, godfather, we all wanted to invest in you, coach. And you came through. You came through. So tell me about when you met Alex. Do you recall any part of that journey?
I do. I remember when I met him, and he wasn't very confident when I met him because of what had taken place in regards to how his body was seemed to be breaking down, and how from previous years he wasn't able to compete at that with that same level of success. He just was working and not getting any return, so to speak, from it, and then his body was starting just injuries started happening. Just usually that's from overtraining and some other things that come about it, and then just having no idea what to do. He was doing the training that the track coach was asking him to do. He just didn't quite know where to begin, and that's common because being the journey of an athlete is about lifelong development. So a lot of times you get to certain stages of just learning of who you are within the sport that you compete in. There are transitions, and if you don't have the right guidance within those transitions, sometimes you can actually get lost. And he was just kind of lost. He was young though, so first thing you got to do is attack the mind with that and say, you know what, you're fine. You're right where you're supposed to be, and not feel like you're late and you're behind. You don't have time. And you start putting this unnecessary pressure on yourself, because that's sports is such a mental. It's so much of a mental approach that goes into sports because people have to balance failure and successes and understand that they're both connected. And just attacking him, saying mentally first, and giving him confidence that we can develop a plan based around what his goals are, and then redirect him to feel more confident because now he has direction, and explain to him that direction is more important than speed, and getting him to understand that and buy into it. Because once he starts buying into it, then the consistency starts to occur. And then we all know the more is all about showing up every day anyway, because that's where the real success is. Because the goal is going to always change. It's going to evolve. Because as you improve, the goal is going to expand because you're going to start to achieve outcomes that you weren't anticipating. And that's what kind of occurred with Alex. And that's how begin. But that initial conversation was about the confidence that you're right where you're supposed to be. We got a plan. Let's just stick to the plan and watch how it unfolds.
Well, that is amazing because I want to break that down. One of the cornerstones of this podcast is to empower people in terms of the fact that they're all different. You have coached so many different people of different age groups, different genders, as well as the fact that they were in different sports. So there's a common thread, I think, that comes to your ability, and you're obviously gifted to empower that diverse group of people. So my question is, you talked about the mind, and it seems like that would be a common denominator across all of them. How do you take everyone from where they are with that diverse basis and get them to be great?
You have to peel back the layers first to see where the loss of confidence began, or where is the frustration of the why behind why they are where they are at that moment when you meet them, and then what are they? How do they approach their day to day as far as how they compete at the elite levels? It gets even at the elite levels, it's tough because athletes have to understand one thing, that they're not going to always be successful. And I think that's where it begins. You embrace failure. I said that before. It's a part of the journey, but you weaponize the process where you're going from failure. Failure is opportunity. Um, it's an opportunity to kind of look back at yourself and what you're doing. And it's kind of how everything really unfolds from a spiritual standpoint as well. Because if you pray and you ask God to deliver you of something, or create some type of intervene in your life to give you assistance, he gives you opportunity to work at that concept. So if you actually say, okay, God, can you give me more patience? He's gonna give you opportunities to be patient. So it's the same thing with failure, is an opportunity to evaluate what you're not doing correctly and what you can improve upon within yourself. The problem with that is that's hard because you got to really accept you got some faults. You got some things and some issues that you got to really address. And we live in a time in society today to where no one wants to do that. Everyone wants instant gratification. Everybody wants, they don't want their children or youth athletes to go through any type of struggles. They want everything to be nice and smooth and clean and easy. They don't want any trauma. And you're really not preparing athletes, or we're not preparing people for real life situations and how to adapt and to adjust. But that's where it begins. And you can weaponize that to where success and failure become connected, because the next step is, okay, failure, opportunity, success, confirmation. of my process, which is consistency over time, which will then carry me out over and over again. Because consistency is more about, it's not going to be 100% when your best is every day. It's just showing up and sticking to the plan no matter how you feel. And when you can master that approach, that's when the elite things begin to come to life. Because you're always taking that negative and turning it into a positive. And some of that sounds cliche, but getting the athlete to appreciate, all right, let's say I went 0 for 4 in a baseball game. Let's go look at the tape. Back to work tomorrow. They got 60, it's some schedules for youth is 60 games. Pros are 162 games. Okay. And it's always tomorrow. It's truly a day by day approach. That's how you kind of keep the athlete locked in on what's important, because then you realize that athleticism is a lifelong journey if that's the choice that you make, or is that the career of choice, so to speak, that you're working towards. It's always about development long term.
So that's interesting you say that because we're talking about body for longevity is one of the pillars of the OTM challenges as we've created. Why do people not stay fit or healthy long term? That's a really broad question, but I think you have an answer because you've heard different people speak to that and you have your own perspective. So, why do people not stay fit or healthy long term in terms of as they age?
I think we live in society, it's built around comfort, and actually we weren't designed to be comfortable. Quite honestly, we were designed to work. That's pretty much, we had to work to survive. But everything about life and everything about science has made things where we can lounge and relax, and we go to buy our food. We don't go hunt. We don't hunt anymore. We don't we don't plant. We don't till the fields. We don't do anything. We just go purchase it. So sit down in our chairs and we do what we want. And it's kind of been over the years has impacted us physically, when you have this broad amount of different types of diseases that's come because of it. And it's getting worse because now society is manufacturing food, which is not even real food anymore, which is really destroying us. It's destroying us internally. So now it's not just from lack of external opportunity, is more of internal destruction from just the bad foods that we're taking and ingesting. Um, but to sum it up, it's you also got to add in the fact of emotional eating. So a lot of times when people are depressed, they eat. A lot of times people are happy, they eat. People celebration, they eat. But the activity level has gone down, and before you know it, you have an epidemic of people who gain excess weight, who never who really weren't genetically predisposed to it. It's just their environments impacted them and changed. And then you have a child that you bring into that same environment, who they say, okay, genetic obesity is genetic and it's passed down. No, the environment is passed down. The culture in the household has been passed down. So the same foods that the parents are eating, the kids are eating with the same outcomes. That's the problem more than anything else. And that's what's not being addressed, because there's a lot of financial aspects to it where people are making a ton of money. So food has become a business, and marketing to people to eat food is a business. And that's what they're not going to allow that train to be interrupted.
So you're really saying that it's not access to food, it's perhaps the types of foods that we eat that influence, how fit and healthy we stay.
Pretty much. Pretty
Okay.
much. Yeah.
Okay.
Because if you make the right choices, I don't think, well, I know for a fact your body will adjust or utilize the foods properly. I think we eat too much. That's another thing. I just there's too much access. Um, but that's another conversation. But that's a part about just how we're built as human beings on how to survive in regards to just, hunter gatherers being able to have to go out and hunt our food, catch it, store it, stock up for the cold months to come, etc. We're not, we're just it's too accessible. But then that's self control too that needs to be built in within that, and that's environment and culture.
So what about access or the ability to be active? You mentioned that as the other part, right? Food and eating was one part, but you was kind of alluding to, as I saw, where you're talking about us not being as active as we get older because for whatever reason. What kind of activities can you do as you age, or is it just consistently doing the same exercises you did when you were younger?
No, everything has to change over time. But however, it's more mindset than it is physically. Um, of course, the same volumes because of the ability to recover aren't the same when you're a younger athlete versus you're an adult, mature, older athlete later in life. But there's a such thing as your approach is through maturity and through experience changes because you don't have to take those same approaches because you just have a lot of knowledge of what you know yourself pretty well. So when you learn over the time of training and years of being active, you learn what pretty much what works for you and what doesn't, and then finding consistency within that as an older athlete. But it's the point of is the mindset and not believing that you're aging because a lot of times people stop being active because the first thing they say is I'm too old. I shouldn't be doing this anymore. I only could be able to do this. So a lot of people's issues are more of a mental based on what society tells us, more so than them being able to still accomplish some of the things they set out to be. Just saw a 80-plus-year-old man run 100 meters at Penn Relays in full sprint, 80 years old, full sprint, as fast as he could run, but he was still sprinting at 80 years old. So how many people stop sprinting at 35 because they think they're old? That tells you that sums up exactly what I'm speaking about. You go to Penn Relays, you'll see an 80-year-old division, a 70-year-old division, a 60-year-old division, and they're still running full sprints, which is the most aggressive aspect of sports in anything that you do from an intensity level. And they're still running. So that just tells me if they can do it, why can't you? You've already mentally shut yourself down. Now, sprinting is something that if you stop it, you lose it. And then you can't go back into it and jump back in full speed because what happens is you'll hurt yourself because your body's not ready to go back and function at those high intensities. But there can be a gradual buildup to go back towards it like anything else. It's the consistency, like it goes back to what I originally said earlier, being consistent with a plan and a goal just to want to accomplish something for yourself. And these people chose to say, I'm never going to stop running. I'm going to continue to stop running. Or maybe he started back running at 50, and by the time that they're 55, 60, they're sprinting again. So you can do it an activity. There's really no limitation within it but yourself. And that's just because you choose to tell yourself you can't do it. And the brain is going to listen. Because we talk, the mind is powerful versus saying I can do it. So.
Oh, that's awesome. I like the examples specifically of competitive running for 78-year-olds. I mean, for the regular person, um, what would you recommend if they're not, when we're talking athletes, we're talking sprints, and some of this stuff is high intensity.
Mhm.
What are some of the low intensity habits that regular people, they never classify them as athlete, classify themselves as athletes, but what are some of the activities they can do to stay fit over time?
Simple as just walking, moving. The number one thing that I do when I approach any athlete, whether it's elite, whether it's youth, is how good of movers are they? Do they move well? I'm evaluating their daily activity, how they function, how they walk, how they we have different test and assessment protocols that actually test the athletes from a movement standpoint at high speeds, but more so simply, do you move well as a human being? That's the big thing for me because even the athletes have to move well as a human being before they can move well as an athlete. Day to day function, and a lot of that is lost as you age. And because of that, for example, why do seniors fall and they're injured severely? Because they lack the ability to absorb impact. deceleration. So they can't stop, brace, slow down, absorb. Bones have gotten brittle because of lack of strength, but just the whole, and that's due to inactivity. And when you stop using your muscles, when you stop using your bones, they're actually, when we do get a certain age, you got to realize you're going down the other side of the mountain. You got to do something to offset that, to slow that down. But just learning, just getting back to moving and moving well. It doesn't have to be anything high intense. It could just be mobility that you do daily, walking, standing up and out of a chair. Simple things just to get active again. But just add a little more each day, add a little more each week. There's no rush. It's the consistency of showing up. Doesn't mean every day you're gonna feel like, yeah, I don't feel like walking 5 miles a day. All right, walk half a mile. Just show up every day and just stack it. It's not meant for you to act to be able to walk 5 miles every day. Sometimes it's overkill. It's too much. So if I walk a mile Monday, 5 miles Tuesday, half a mile Wednesday, 3 miles Thursday, 5 miles or 4 miles on Friday, then you know what? Maybe Monday I'll walk 6 miles because then you completed the week. It gives you confidence to take the next step. Just step by step, day by day, brick by brick is something I always say. Take your time and just stay consistent.
I like that example because in this Otium 5 challenge that we've created, there's actually a frequency to any activity within these pillars of self improvement, right? And I'm just going to say the pillars for you now for reference for the people that are watching. And coincidentally, for the audience, coach, I'm going to ask them to put any questions or comments down in the comment section, right,
Mhm.
of the podcast. We will come back and answer those when we have an opportunity. So the OTM 5 starts off with mind and greatness. Second, body for longevity. Third, resilient adaptation to change. The fourth is impactful legacy. And the fifth is peaceful enlightenment. So I think in our conversation, I'm wanting people to get out of this. Minding greatness, I think, is a common thread. As you said, you really have to think about and be intentional about wanting to improve or maintain a level of performance, whether that's physical, mental, and so forth. The other part of that is we're really talking about body for longevity. I took a trip to Costa Rica. I found out it's one of the 5 blue zones in the world.
Mhm.
And many of you can look up what a blue zone is, but basically it's a place where people manage to live. The majority of the people in that region manage to live to be over 100 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. So I went down there. I want to know. I want to know. What are y'all doing? What's going on? So the common denominator, and this is also found in just researching the blue zones, the books and the websites by National Geographic, is their eating habits and the fact that they actually walk. It's not that all of these places have gyms,
They don't.
and the people are not quote unquote athletes, right? So they stay active. They stay active, and you're kind of resonating that.
They move.
They move. Yeah,
Simple.
movement
They
is
move.
so important. Um, let's switch gears for a second. I want you to give me some examples of athletes that you've coached in your career.
Mhm. Examples. Give me. Elaborate a little more for me.
I want some names because
Oh man,
I
I hate name
come
dropping.
on, coach. I
Mm.
really think you are like one of those hidden figures, one of those people that are in the background, and you're a kingmaker or a queen maker, and you and your gift is to empower others. And because you're so humble, I just don't think people realize how much of an influence you've had on people that they may recognize by name. So that's why I'm just asking you, just name a couple of people so that they understand the depth and the influence you've had.
Mm. Ah, man. I've never been a guy that name drops. Because athletes are all the same to me, whether they're 8 year olds or whether they're 25, 30 year olds or veterans. Um, but it depends on the sport. You know, I've been blessed enough to be able to touch from NFL, NBA, uh, MLB, NHL, uh, NCAA, Olympics. I mean, everything. It's such a broad soccer. It's been such a broad spectrum of athletes, and you say it's so many of them. UFC Hall of Famers. Just had one just go Hall of Fame. Vitor Belfort just got elected to the UFC Hall of Fame. Uh, Boxer Hall of Fame. Evander Holyfield. Football. She's you can name so many. Let's say some kids from our local area. We had a ton of them that came through that were started out at young. The Fuller brothers, it was all four brothers played in the NFL. Two are currently still active. They're free agents though, but they have all pretty much had long careers playing in the league, very successful. Stephon Diggs came out of our facility when he started. Um, um, I mean, she's Jason Demir's NHL hockey player. He's actually one of the analysts and hosts on NHL Tonight now. He's retired. I was like, there's a lot of guys that are retired too that I have current at Amari Stoudemire, NBA. Um, is that enough? Is there more you want?
I was gonna let you go, but here's the thing. I just I admire your humbleness because I think there is um, a role to a great empowering mentor as well as an actual apprentice or relationship where you're helping others, that you're not looking for recognition for yourself. And I really admire that in you, coach, because I'm telling you, the people you're talking about are well known. And, there are so many people that help them, including their nutritionists, right? They've got people that help them with their food. You help them with their physical, actual movement. So I appreciate you sharing those. I know that actually it's a challenge to you because I think the word is just humble, but your impact is really powerful in that you understand the human body and mind, and I think that's really what you're talking about. What about spirituality? What is there anything that is like a faith driven, I believe I can do something drive to these people that you work with?
Yes, I would say majority of seeing all seem to have strong backgrounds in faith.
Hmm.
At the elite level, you have to believe in something. Because like I said, it's not going to always be a positive outcome because you're the best in the world. You can prepare everything and do everything perfectly and still not get the outcome that you want. But that's a part of being at the elite level. It's just again, it goes back to those few words like consistency, and opportunity. And God gave you the gift for you to give Him the honor to use it as a display and give it, and and give God, ask for grace in the good time, in the bad times, direction in the bad times, and then give honor in the good, because that's why you would get bestowed the gift to begin with. It's just gratefulness, and a lot of them have to. It keeps them humble because when they lose sight of that, things crash very quickly. And most have an understanding, and some they get a little bit full of themselves, and that's when people like myself had to remind them, whoa, 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 understand why you're here, what your purpose is, and just remind them, be humble. And sometimes those who are closest to them, who have that kind of relationship that can actually hold them accountable, have to do that to keep them grounded, but keep them moving forward to be successful in what they do. Um, I think they all need it because sometimes the way the world elevates you, and you need something to keep you humble. And I think that's the one, that's the check, I would say. The course corrector is that faith because it reminds them that they were given the gift They didn't earn it themselves. It was given to them.
But let's talk about for a second. What makes an athlete's mind set? Because it sounds like the people that you work with, they come to you and they've already decided that they are athletes. They're not just regular people. For example, if I came to you and I said, coach, I want you to train me, what do you perceive as a differentiator between a person that believes they're just a normal person? And I'm using these words intentionally so that I can like make it visceral. They're normal, but it sounds like the people that come to you have already said, I am an athlete.
I think it's experience, um, the stories of others that they see something they have in common with, that they've been in their shoes. A lot of times, people. The big thing about the pro athlete is about availability is the best ability. Where it's not all about when you look at training and preparation and what this public thinks we do versus the reality of what we do. It's not one and the same. And meeting that athlete where they are at that stage of their career is important because we talked about maturity in volume and in introduction to certain intensities that has to be controlled due to maturity. And at certain times of their career, certain athletes only need to be exposed to certain things. When someone understands that, it can give them a roadmap for that because breadcrumbs, success leads breadcrumbs. And they've seen that with others that they find they have things in common with, they're interested. And that's why they hire. They'll come talk to me because of what they've heard about me in regards to what they've seen with others. Um, people don't like being in pain. Pain is the common denominator from athlete to just the everyday person. And if there's a way you can figure out to help that person get out of pain, they're interested. Because a lot of times activity, people aren't active anymore because of the sedentary lifestyles. And then because of the sedentary lifestyles, the things with pain begin to kick in just because they aren't moving. It's like an old screw that's just sitting there and it becomes rusted. Now it hurts to try to get that screw to loosen back up. And then what happens, you might know you're supposed to move every day, but the pain tells you otherwise and not getting up. So that becomes a part of moving extremely well. Even the elite athletes need to move extremely well, don't want to be in pain. And volume is a real thing. Age is a real thing. How you offset that to still move at high speeds at the elite level is important, and there needs to be a roadmap designed for that. But the same thing with the normal human being or the everyday person need to learn. They need a roadmap on how to get out of bed every day, and motion is lotion. So I took that from somebody and that I heard that. And when you get up and just move every single day, you loosen those joints up and you feel better. That's why it's great to start your day and just moving, just what we talked about. Something that simple.
I was doing something wrong. I got to put lotion on. That's jeez. But so here's the thing. And thanks for sharing those thoughts because I am listening for, and I'm hoping my audience is listening for the commonalities that are not dependent on age, race, uh, and background. You're talking about no one wants to be in pain, and that's interesting. And the fact that you don't always succeed in the sense that you don't reach your numbers, but you need to take that as an opportunity to move forward. So that common thread is really interesting and how you've talked about navigating around that. Let me ask, how important is the support system outside of that athlete's mind? So there are people that are around you, yourself, for example. So I focused on people getting their mind set correct or aligned to succeed, as we're calling it in generalities. But there are people around them that influence. Who are the people that influence you or that you've seen influence athletes to reach their greatest potential? And how important is that?
Who personally influenced me?
Yeah, let's talk about you. How did you get to where you are?
Okay.
Actually, I want to take that journey with you, Coach, because greatness in yourself was not built overnight. Where
No.
did you grow up and who influenced you, for example?
Grew up in Baltimore, West Baltimore. And sometimes I look back and I always wonder how did this West Baltimore kid just sit on the steps watching everybody walk up and down the street end up around the world, touching, being able to work with some of the best athletes everywhere. And and I'm in awe of that every single day because when I don't think positive of myself, I have to go back and look where I came from. Um, and it's, life is a journey of learning. And I've been always been inquisitive about learning since day one that as far as I can remember. I had the gift of athleticism, but I always wanted to know why. Um, and I always felt because I come from a family of educators who took education very seriously. I didn't like it because I wanted to play sports, and because I had that gift of playing at that time when I was young, I was always approaching it very cerebral, so very detailed because I just knew something was different about that approach that carried over long term. And when I didn't have success, and when I began to break down on my own, or if I felt like I was undercoached, matter of fact, I knew I was undercoached. That was one of the motivating factors as a young athlete to when I got old enough and had to make a career choice on what I went in this direction because I just didn't feel like coaching was good enough to help unlock some of the issues within us as individuals. It wasn't detailed enough. It wasn't broken down enough. Um, it was just more of he can play or he can't. I used to say you can't teach speed. That's a lie. They say he's an effort guy. I hated that. That wasn't me though, but I hate that title when they put those little titles on people. I just heard something the other day. I remember it rung a bell. He's a half step too slow. Not me, but somebody else. All these titles that they put on people with no real direction or behind how to change or improve it. You just label somebody and you leave them out there, and they wonder why you destroy their confidence with no plan on how to come back from it. Um, and I always felt that that was just really the worst case scenario you can do to a person. You can really send them in the wrong direction mentally and become something, or they never even achieve what the God put in front of them or maximize the gift that God gave them because of their experience with the coach and what he didn't do for lack thereof. And through that and my own experience, because I had some great experiences with coaches who just didn't know. And I felt like I need to do something to impact these young people to never experience what I experienced. And that's kind of why I got into it because just that just always broke my heart to watch tell people they're not good enough, but just not give them a roadmap on how to improve. I just think that's just such a waste. And to this day, I still look at it that way. At my elite levels that I work with now, my elite level athletes that I've trained with now, always fussing at me. Do you ever stop thinking? No, because there's never you always room to get better in everything that you do. We're going to always work to get better. We're going to stay consistent and we're going to get better. Period. Until the day you stop playing. And then when you stop playing, we're gonna figure that out. What you gonna do next? How are you gonna get better? It's a lifelong journey of development. That's what life is about. Learning, moving, setting more tasks, setting goals. People who don't do anything, there's something broken inside. It's up to us as their brother or sister to help them figure that out. Shouldn't leave anybody behind. Nobody. Because we're here for each other. That's the whole point of why God put us here. And we've lost sight of that. It won't be me though. So I'm gonna do my part. Make sure I pull everybody I can along on this journey to be the best versions of themselves. Period. Whether they're a high level athlete or whether there's somebody that's sitting in the corner that's homeless, I'm gonna try to find a way to bring them along to make their day better so they can see some type of light at the end of the day. And that's where it began.
Wow. Okay. And I see the passion is still there, Coach.
Yeah, it is.
I'm glad because I think there has to be a degree of passion to continue to empower others. There must have been a point where you decided you yourself were going to be the best you could be. Do you have a recollection of when that was, or what were the events around you saying, I'm going to be the best that I can be?
Hmm. I always had a desire to be different. Um, I was a person who looked at the world with rose-colored glasses, meaning I would pick up a caterpillar and walk it across the street. I always look for the good in everybody. I think that's the gift right there. That urge to want to help and love and be there for everyone. The world doesn't embrace that, which was the tough thing I had to learn. Sometimes that could be looked upon as weakness, and you have to create a shell around yourself. And especially if no one shows you the way to how to protect that or show you what's good in that, you kind of can get lost a little bit. Um, I had to learn that that was a gift and not be afraid of sharing that with everyone and allowing that part to show, because at one point began to hide it because it wasn't always received. It was laughed at. It was looked upon as something as a negative. Um, when I decided, or when pretty much it came to me that it was a gift, I began to say, all right, what platform can I use to share it? And I felt like God introduced me to sports as an athlete first to prepare me to communicate with athletes now.
Yeah.
That's why I played. So I would say my steps were ordered in that way because I wanted to play. I did not want to teach. I tell you that now. I did not want to teach. Uh, I was pushed in that direction by him above because that's what his plan was. And when I accepted that, that's when I said, you know what? The same way I approach playing is the same way I'm going to approach coaching and training. I'm gonna hold people accountable. I'm gonna have the hard conversations, but when they hit it right, I'm gonna be the most encouraging person they've ever seen. They know I have their back, and they know it when I'm there. I've seen a guy score a touchdown, I run down the sideline with him full speed, and they like everybody's like, "The coach is crazy." Or even yes, the other day we're in a game, pro athlete, they're losing 13-0. It's 90 plus degrees. We're in a venue that it's not the normal professional venue because the team's stadium had been damaged in a hurricane, and this venue is just rough for these guys. And he's just his last at bat, they are losing 13-0. I'm sitting in right by the dugout in the heat, all 9 innings. He's at bat. I'm watching. He's great at bat. 11, 12 pitches, fouls it off, strikes out. He just happens to look up and see me, stood up. Not that he struck out, that you're down 13-0 in the last inning and you just hit a 12 pitch at bat. That's impressive. You could get up and left. You kept competing. That's something to build on. That's opportunity. That's the stuff that's missing in coaching and development with the young athlete or what's happening with us at the elite level. And when people can't help but be motivated to want to work for that, because everybody wants something to believe in them. Someone wants someone to believe in them. Because if they don't, I mean, it's like, why even, if you don't believe in me, why even be bothered? you know? And that's the biggest thing I just try to translate over. I believe in you. I see the best in you. I see the greatness that God gave you. Let's work it. Let's keep pushing towards it, no matter the good or bad of the outcome. We're going to keep working to be the best versions of yourself. That's it.
Coach, I think that's a good segue to thank you for taking time to definitely share your inspirational thoughts and continue, please, to do the work that you do because I think it's more skilled than people realize. So um, I really appreciate you taking time to sit and chat. And I look forward definitely to sitting and chatting with you in this forum again and or just when we're breaking bread. How about that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Both. Let's do both.
Absolutely.
Do
Well,
both.
listen, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Whole Team the Podcast. I wish you continued success. For those watching, CoachTroyJones.com is how you can get a hold of Coach. And I certainly, again, Coach, thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem. It's a pleasure to be here.
All
Good to
right.
see you, man. Miss you.
Always take good care of yourself.
All right. Thank you. Send you too.